love that you guys are scribing because I didn't teach one workshop last year, and then I got an email from Lori telling how she had headed up one online and Zoom and how it kind of spread. I thought, see, God will carry on his work. And the fact that I'm handwriting the Bible and getting other people to handwrite the Bible, whatever, if they try to ban it, we have it all over the place in every 5-star notebook and everywhere. So I'm not scared. So I told Melody that I would tell stories because that is way, way easier for me to wrap my brain around. So I'll tell you how some of this started, why I would be standing here. One morning, I was on my treadmill in the living room, and I was on a good incline, working really hard and huffing and puffing, and I like to either listen to an Audible book or watch a video while I'm doing that. So this particular morning, I was watching Priscilla Shearer preach, and she was preaching a fiery little sermon about Luke chapter 5, about Peter and, Jesus was preaching on the lake of Galilee, and he noticed 2 boats. So he got in one of them, and the fishermen were there rinsing out their nets, and he asked Simon Peter if he would push him out a little bit so he could preach from there. And Simon Peter did that. Jesus preached, and then kind of like as a reward or something, he said, now, launch out into the deep, and you will, how did he say it? Let down your nets for a catch. And Peter's reply was kind of cranky because he had been fishing all night and hadn't caught anything, and he said as much, but then he just respectfully said, but like, if you say so, I will. So he went out, and you probably know the story that he caught so much the net started to rip that he had to call for his partners to bring other boat, and that one too was filled to maximum capacity, and it was an awesome story, and I was like caught right up in it. And then Priscilla, I would take a total distraction from my lack of oxygen and burning thighs, and all of a sudden she looked straight into the camera at me, and she said, will you launch out into the deep if Jesus calls you? And I was like in the crowd. I forgot I was on the treadmill, and I said, yes, I will go. And then I got off. And then later that day, I don't know if you can hear this. Okay. So later that day, it was winter in Saskatchewan, and I was supposed to go to a ladies' prayer meeting, house meeting, and I didn't really want to go because it was winter in Saskatchewan, and it's dark and cold, but I had a friend who was going to be speaking at it, and she is just an incredible girl back from a missions thing. She's like she went to Switzerland when she was 18, learned the language, taught Bible studies, and then she moved to Africa and spearheaded working with marginalized women and teaching them little micro businesses. And like, she's this amazing little blonde-headed girl from Saskatchewan living in Africa, and she has so many great stories. So because she was going to be there, I went there, and I surveyed the room, wanted a prime location so I could hear everything, saw where she would be sitting, and was just kind of waiting. But I didn't see her. So I saw her mother talking with another lady, and I thought, they keep looking at me. I waved, and then I thought, okay, this is getting weird. They just keep turning and looking at me. So I walked over and said, I haven't seen Larissa. Where is she? And they looked at each other knowingly and had this little secretive kind of thing. And her mom, Brenda, said, she's sick and she can't be here. Said, oh no, what are you guys going to do? And they looked at each other, and then they looked at me, and Brenda said, well, we think that it would be a real shame for all the people who came here to only just get to visit each other and eat and go home. And every time we look over at you, it's kind of like you're highlighted. And we feel like God is saying you should speak. And I was like, never done that before. And like, you don't ask someone to speak when they never had a heads up, like at all, like none. And I was just like I made a crack about I will never make eye contact with you again like that. And they didn't smile. Like there's no, and then I heard, like I seriously was just going to say, that's not going to happen. But I heard in my spirit, I guess is what you just hear a voice, but no one else hears it. And it was, you were able. Then I argued inside my head, no, I'm not. And then it's like silent, which is super annoying, but God argues that way. Like he just says, this is. And then all of a sudden I remembered me on the treadmill going, yes, I will launch out into the deep. And so I said, okay, this is what I would need. I would need a guest bedroom. I would need a pad of paper. I would need a pen. And you guys have to pray over me and then leave me for 10 minutes. And like, I don't even know how I could be so bossy, because I'm really like the third mild child in the family, and I'm not bossy. But they just like at lightning speed gave me everything I needed, prayed and laughed, and I thought, oh. But God just, he called me to do something that I had said I would do, didn't know what it was, and then words just started to flow, and ideas came, and I don't even know what I talked about other than I think it had something to do with launching out into the deep. So, so that happened, and I just thought God must have been just chuckling when I thought that I was just going out to hear someone else speak, and I was, wrestling whether I should go or stay home and be cozy, because he knew what was around the corner. So I think that he not only hears us when we pray, but he pays a lot of attention to the words that we say, especially when we say them with conviction, and and when we are willing and obedient. And obedient is a word that I mentor a girl, and she was a very independent young woman, and she had a problem with the word obey and obedient. So I told her, well, how about just saying willing to cooperate? And she liked that a lot better, so we'll go with that. So some of you were here last year. I don't know when my sister spoke. And she had had a stroke in July, and she came in August, and she had asked if she could speak because she just really wanted to make a point, to the enemy that he was not going to silence her, because she lost her voice when she had this stroke. And then she started getting it back, and she's like, in your face, I'm going to speak, I'm going to preach. And just, by the way, I did not ask if I could, but she did. So we had a lot of opposition in getting her here. Like, she ended up in the hospital. The morning she spoke, I had to take her for a CT scan. And all along, I'm going, you sure we shouldn't call Melody? And she says, nope, I'm going to get there. And then again, the familiar voice just said, your job is to get her there. So I got her here, and she spoke, and it was a really neat experience. Like 2 years leading up to that, Carol had been my parents' caregiver, mainly for my mom, and she did all the organizing and taking care of mom to appointments and stuff like that. But when she had the stroke, that just had to end, like, abruptly. And then my job began to be deputy, make sure she didn't do that stuff anymore, because then she wouldn't even be allowed to live in the house there. And so, learn to fill in some of the gaps, but changes had to be made. So Mom and Dad got moved to Red Willow Lodge in Valley View, and then we attacked all the cleaning and packing for Carol's stuff. And to quote her daughters, she is the tidiest little hoarder ever. And she has like millions of books, and nobody likes moving people who love books. So we moved her books and all of her stuff temporarily. We bought a sea can to put all that in, and then she moved with just her car load to Colorado to have some time to heal. And I just thought, what a year. This has been the craziest year ever. I mean, we saw God in it throughout, but we also can't deny that there was a lot of troubles. And I said, man, I can't wait for this year to be over. And on like December 31st, my husband was sitting at the table talking to me, and I was doing dishes, and he said, I noticed his face was contorting a little bit like, I don't know, like he was stretching his mouth funny. And I said, what are you doing? He said, my face feels funny. It feels like frozen, like I've been to a dentist or something, but I don't know why. And I said, just now? He said, no, for 3 days now. I know. And, and my hand's feeling tingly too. I think I had an allergic reaction to compound W because he never tried that before. He tried it 3 days before. And so he just put those pieces together and started studying and found out side effect could be numbness. So the next morning, January 1st, he drove into to get antibiotics, hopefully, at a medical clinic. But everything was closed, so he went to the hospital, and they did not believe it was an allergic reaction to something. And he was there for hours, and I didn't know what was going on. And here's a piece of free advice for men, husbands. This is the text he sent to me. Don't ever do this. That's my advice. He said, I'm just leaving the hospital now. I'll call you when I get out of the city. It's not good. We have to talk. So for 20 minutes, I waited for, every possible bad case scenario. I'm thinking, I don't know why he bothered to tell me he was going to tell me something. Just wait till you could tell me the thing. So then they told him that he'd had a stroke. So he's 58, he doesn't smoke or drink, and he exercises, runs all the time, and didn't seem like a candidate for that at all. And he didn't have the same symptoms that my sister had, so I didn't suspect it. But all those things had to happen again, like the CT scan, MRI, heart monitor, blood thinners, medication, drawing his blood, and it all started again. That was welcome 2026, actually, on January 1st. So that was just a crazy thing, but we were grateful that he didn't have he drove himself there, and he drove himself home. He walks in, cowboy boots, hey, I want to get some antibiotics, and then he drove home. So it's not a debilitating thing, and he is doing good, still has a numbness in his face, but we knew a couple years ago we were talking about he's wondering, how can I ever exit? What's my plan for retirement eventually? I don't want to wait till the boys are too old to get something new, but I don't want to run it without them. And they don't want to take it over. And since we couldn't figure it out, we just kept shelving it. But it was so busy that he was just working all the time, and the phone never stops. When you own the business, you answer the phone all the time. And so we just didn't solve it. And then this happened. And since before we didn't know when or how, now at least we knew when. We had to make some changes, and it was now. And we just prayed, God, we don't know how. And he was offering it again to his son, do you want to take it over? And they didn't really want to have that responsibility. They loved the work, but not what he did. And he got a call out of the blue from this young guy who has a Bobcat, small business. And Carrie's known him for years and really likes him. And he's a young Christian guy with one little boy and a baby on the way. And he wanted to come down and have a conversation with Carrie. Never done that before. Nobody else knew yet about the stroke. And so he came down, and he was like, I just wanted to talk to you about something because I don't want to offend you and I don't want to step on your toes, but I've been really wanting to get into doing what you do. And so I've been taking a course to become certified in this water, and he just water and sewer, water breaks, hooking up new builds and acreages and stuff like that. And Carrie said, really? Maybe we need to talk. And so it just was the perfect timing that he is taking over, and he's buying the business over a period of time. And Carrie's going to be the consultant and liaison for him and teach him some things that you don't learn in the written part. And I asked this guy, what led up to you coming and calling that day? And he said, well, 2 years ago, I started wanting to do this, and I actually went to a convention about it, and I saw Carrie's name tag on the table, and I thought, oh no, he's going to see me here, and he's going to be upset. And then it was a blizzard, and Carrie didn't go. And then another day out of the blue, Carrie just called him to say, hey, Jesse, what's going on? And he said, nothing. And he's feeling guilty, like he's on to me. But it wasn't. And this was the perfect time for him to tell. And so it just worked out perfectly, and the boys got new jobs within, like they just slid into new jobs the next month. Really good ones. And God is the best organizer ever. And lots of things that we could never have we couldn't have figured it out, but we just had to surrender it. And I said, this is like when Miriam had to put her baby in the basket and send him down the river. Like, she surrendered that. She didn't know what was going to happen, and Pharaoh's daughter finds him, brings him, gets his own mom to take care of him, but for pay. And so it's kind of like that, like you're selling the business, but you get to work for the business, so you get paid to work for your business. So it's really neat. Plus, as I listened to them sit at the kitchen table talking, I saw it's more than just mentorship on how to do this job. He's a young Christian guy, and Carrie's talking to him about praying before you go to work for safety and for wisdom and for insight, like water breaks. You know, what's under the ground, like he said he's had a kind of an interesting prophetic gift of knowing what's going on under the ground. Like he sees pictures of where that break is. And I thought it's really cool, but I just could see that hunger in Jesse as he's learning more than just how to do the business, but how to do it as a Christian. And God wants to be in every element of our lives. He wants to go with us to work, be with us at work. Like Tyson was saying, like, use your voice everywhere. You are a witness. You are a voice, and we're the body. That Jesus doesn't walk in a body here. Now he walks in all of our bodies here. So that's the cool thing of that. Now, this is kind of one last sort of story, but it's just a neat thing. And when I read the Bible, a lot of times I'll be just taking notes, or a verse stands out. Well, this one day I was reading Psalm 37, and I don't know why, but you know how the Bible's new all the time. It's like, when did those verses get in there? And the verses about houses and property just kept highlighted. So I wrote them out, and then I just wrote it into a prayer, like, what are you saying to me through these? What do you want to say to me through these verses? And then I just wrote what I was hearing in my spirit, what I felt. Like I could be wrong sometimes, but this time I wrote this out. And it was along the lines that God, he was just telling me that people were going to start calling us privately with offers to sell houses and lots or land. And this would be a new channel of income. So we were still on, it's October, full on fall work. It's crazy flat out, and Thiessen Bros was full swing. So I closed the journal, and I honestly never thought about it again until December. And Carrie come upstairs from being on the treadmill. See treadmills? They're a spiritual experience in our home. So he came upstairs, and he said, I think I just had a vision. Or I didn't see something, but I just felt so strong, like this impression that I'm going to go more into houses and property, which I love, but I don't know how I could ever find time to do that. Like, we had a reno on the go, and 12 years before that we had done one. Like, we just did a little bit, but that was confirmation. I don't know when I wrote this, but I'm going to find you this, and I read it to him, and that was kind of an amazing thing, because God's so specific. He can be so specific with us. So we now have one new house to sell and one reno that's just about ready to list, and 2 lots, and he was offered 6 other lots. We haven't said yes to everything that's being offered to us, but it's a guidepost, the fact that they all came privately. Every single one of those, we're not looking. And now that he's not running Thiessen Bros the same way, now is more obvious how it could actually happen and why he could have more time available. And God provided in advance, you're going to need to know this back in October that I said this would happen, so that you realize it is my provision for this time when you don't know how you're going to make money after. We weren't sure. We didn't know Jesse was going to come up, all of that stuff. So it was really, really good, and I'm amazed at the kindness and goodness of God. And I clearly have told you that there are troubles in this world and in our lives, and currently my mom's in the hospital. My sister's kind of feeling displaced, and life can be hard. David describes it in Psalms 116 as when my fears surround me. So he's like owning it. He's worrying about stuff. He's hearing the voices of fear, that God is there. God's our answer, and he's never shaken. And he puts his Holy Spirit in us when we believe and when we receive Jesus into our hearts, and that Holy Spirit makes us able. Remember, you are able, whispered in my ear. We also have his word, and I've got some verses that I gave them in Psalms 119, which is a favorite chapter, and every single verse in it talks about the word. And like verse 114 says, you're my place of quiet retreat, and your wraparound presence becomes my shield as I wrap myself in your word. Is that up there or not? No? Okay. Do you have it? Okay. Oh, pray my eyes see this, because I trusted you and I didn't bring my glasses. 116 also is a really good one. Lord, strengthen my inner being with promises of your word, so that I may live faithful and unashamed for you. Lift me up and I will be safe. Empower me to live every moment in the light of your ways. And then this one, break open your word within me and until revelation light shines out. Those with open hearts are given insight into your plans. I hope that this encouraged you about the word, and to have a ready yes on your lips, even when it's unfamiliar or uncomfortable, because if Jesus asks you and you are willing to cooperate, he will fill the net. He will give you what you need to do the job that he's asking you. I think about how he started me scribing so long ago. That was 2017, and I did write the New Testament a few times, not every book 3 times, but some of them again, and Proverbs and Psalms, and all of those things were preparation for getting ready for what's around the bend and not being afraid. It's actually, while you're writing it in all those books, it's also being written on your heart. And then when you pray, they just come up out of that well that you put in. You deposited it, and you don't even have to have said, I've got all these verses memorized, because I don't. But when I need them, they surface. Not always the reference, but I know the word. Yeah. And I think it's one of the most powerful ways to pray, using God's own word back to him, those promises. So that is my stories that I have to share with you today. And Melody has some of the books back there. You can have those that are on the table. And then if anyone wants the scribing journals or anything like that, I've got, just come see me later. That's good. I did not time it. I have no idea how. 5 minutes, 20?
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you.